David, it's awesome to have you, man, and congratulations on your latest movie, The Storied Life of A.J. Frikry.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited to be part of such a beautiful project.
So what attracted you to the initial story? Was it you were a fan of the novel or were you a fan of the script?
I read the script first. Gabrielle Zevin is just such an incredible writer, and she wrote the screenplay as well. And it really touched me. It was just such a wonderful group of actors I'd be able to work with. And it came together really quickly. So I had to sort of rush up there and I do an accent in it because it's sort of outside of Boston in a little fictional island called Alice Island, which is kind of, we filmed it in Cape Cod. So it's got that vibe up there. But I studied my accent. I talked to my friend who's a cop in Connecticut, Jerry, and sort of was off to the races.
So when did you shoot the movie? Because from my recollection, I can't remember this going into production. It just sort of landed and I was like, what?
I can't either. It was sort of right before the new year, I believe we shot it.
And how long were you on set for? Were you on set the whole duration?
For a big portion of it, yeah. The film itself and the book that spans several years, and they had to cast the different ages for all the children in it, which were incredible actors. And so yeah, I was there, and I sort of would, I had a lot of days off, but I was there for the whole time.
And did you have to work closely with Gabrielle in order to sort of get your character right, sort of get the right vibe for the character?
Yeah, I really stuck to the script a lot because she wrote it. She everything she wanted was there. And Hans Canosa, the director, really it's they're a really great team together, and he really knew her vision as well. So and had his vision for it. So they really helped me kind of stay on course and find the character. And I did want to do a slight accent because he's in a small town, and a lot of the people that we were meeting up, even up in Cape Cod, had sort of this, I wanted not it to be some strong Boston accent or anything. So it's just a slight accent, but I worked on that quite a bit and read the book, started reading the book Infinite Jest, which is my character mentions in the film. So I kind of did as quick research as I could, and just got to know the other cast members was a really big part of it, because the friendship that we bonded on the set sort of is what happens in the film as well.
So were you Gabrielle's initial choice for the role?
I don't know. I don't know. Oh, it's lower on the list, but I think they did love the idea that of me playing a cop again, because I'm sort of like played a cop in iconic screen films. So it was like this fun sort of take, because he's definitely a different character. He's got a really big heart. He's a small town guy, and he's an old school kind of police officer. He's really I don't know, he's got a big heart. He cares about his community. He really wants to make sure it's a nice place to live, and a nice place has to have a bookstore. So there's this extreme love for books and reading within the whole story that really plays out.
Are you a fan of books yourself?
I am. I just read Gabrielle Zevin's new book, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and it is so remarkable. It takes place in the gaming world. It's like these two things I love, and it's this relationship story, and it's got depth, and it's got real heart. But the beautiful thing about The Storied Life of A.J. Frikry is that the story, as you're watching it, keeps unraveling. It just keeps sort of revealing itself, and it's layered, and these characters are complex, and they learn about themselves, and they grow, and it's really it unveils itself a lot similar to the way a book does.
How do you find playing the character though from the start to say the middle than to the end, because it does span the 10-year period. So you have to age yourself efficiently while you're playing it. How do you find that? Being like, how would I act if I was just say 51 to into like 61? How do you go about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, you kind of you feel it in your body, you feel it in your voice, you feel it in your comfortable sort of relationships with these characters over time. You you know, not as sort of comfortable at the beginning, but then you've spent some time with them and you can have this relationship where it's more nuanced. And like I don't we didn't necessarily film it in order, but it felt that the experience of getting to know the cast in real life and having dinners with them and spending some time with them and having conversations with them, especially with Kunal and Christina, who I shared a lot of scenes with, we got to really know each other. So that sort of comes across. And by the time we shot the final scenes, we really were more comfortable with each other.
And have you seen the finished product?
I have, yeah, it's a beautiful film. I'm really honored to be a part of it. It's one of my favorite films that was a novel that they made into a film was The World According to Garth. So to be part of a really beautiful book that is now a film was really a special thing for me.
And it contains every sort of emotion, doesn't it? Like one minute you're laughing, the next minute you're like, oh shit, the next minute, man, tears are coming down it.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is like a really beautiful book. And it really has this love of reading bookstores, and you can feel it. And some of the incredible dialogue that Gabrielle wrote just kind of sticks with you. I've thought about it since I've watched it. And, you know, just the smell of a bookstore, like the way she explains that and the way Hans shot it, it really comes across. And the sort of just the progression of time and how life goes on. Like it's this really beautiful journey.
And see, when you're reading the script and you're going through, what most stuck out about the character where you were like, I'm gonna do this? What caught you about the character?
You know, it's interesting because I have an acting style where I find a lot of things within the experience of being on the set or what's there, props or relationships with characters, find little jokes and stuff like that. And it wasn't that experience for this. She had written the book, she had written the script. They had a really specific sort of thing. So it was a exercise for me in kind of trusting that and it kind of it did something really grounding in a way where I wasn't kind of a little more all over the place. Really was able to kind of sit back into my skin, be real comfortable. Just I don't know, it brought a realistic quality to it, to this character, which kind of a calm that I don't necessarily have as much of.
And yourself as well, you're a very versatile actor. Like you can do action, you can do horror, you can do thriller. You've done everything, rom-coms. Look, what's your favorite? What's your preferred genre to star in?
There's something about doing a comedy with even with this, with the Kunal's just such an incredible comedic actor. He's just I got such a kick out of watching him, you know, form this character. He's such a like studied he's just I think I'm not sure if he went to Juilliard, but he went just had a really beautiful sort of approach. And just watching him, how he dissected his script and things like that was really impressive to me. But comedies are really fun to do because when you end up like spending half the day laughing and you kind of have to like get it together to see film a scene and it's really my favorite thing in life anyway, is being able to smile. And when you work with people that you really enjoy and you feel blessed to be there and just very fortunate, and you feel like you're creating something that the fans are really love, because that's why we do this, to entertain people and bring these beautiful stories to life.
Another thing as well, which I was wondering while watching it, did you actually build a whole bookstore? filled with books?
They found this really beautiful bookstore that was on in Cape Cod and along this highway that's like one of the oldest highways in America. I stumbled upon Ed Gorey's old house, which he was an incredible artist and children's book author that I was a fan of. It was just this magical kind of place with really wonderful people, like beautiful community there. So it was really, you kind of felt it while you're there. You kind of, sit in. It was still COVID, obviously, and so I wouldn't go out too much, but I'd kind of go to the hotel restaurant or little restaurants around town, talk to the locals. It was off season, so it wasn't like kind of a lot of tourists or anything around. So it was great to sort of listen to when you're trying to find an accent, that's realistic and not too heavy or pushed or like, wicked and all that. So you kind of try to find these people that have the characteristics or from the sort of background, and if it's one of the drivers or something, you start listening to them and kind of listen to their cadence. It's fun to discover that.
Before we wrap, David, I have to ask you, right? Just have to. It's coming up to that time of the year, so I have to, it'd be a sin not to. So you're famous for playing Dewey. I remember when I was Dewey in the playground in like primary school, when I saw a screen when I really shouldn't have.
Oh, that's amazing.
You should have seen me go behind trees and everything.
Okay, that makes me so happy.
What was it like revisiting the character in the latest Scream?
It was great. I mean, it was sad that Wes wasn't there. He was definitely missed, but it was wonderful to work with, the new directors and the cast, and opposite Courtney and see Nev out there, and it was a wonderful character to play. I love being part of that franchise. I think Ghostface is such an amazing horror film icon. So yeah, it was a blast. I really enjoyed it. And who knows it's in this wild world if he'll or some version will ever be out there in the future.
Well, you got it when you learned about Dewey's fate when reading the script. Were you like, "Oh, are you serious here?"
Yeah, I was going through the script and I was reading and I was like, oh, Dewey's got some good stuff in this. He's really in the beginning of this script, and then we got like little ways in and saw what happened. And I was like, oh, kind of like really had to put it down. It was like, wow, okay, because in this business, it's kind of a wild business. It's kind of business where I don't know when I'll have my next job. I try to do these little projects that keep things going, figure stuff out, and read a voiceover for a cartoon and send it off, see what anything happens from something like that. But I don't know where my next job's coming from. So you're constantly on this sort of like uneven thing. So Scream was a kind of this, constant for me. And I'd always know like, oh, well, there'll be a Scream. So not to have that's kind of like, okay, what am I gonna do next? And I love entertaining the fans, and when something connects with them, it's really special. And especially going to horror conventions or something, and meeting people and hearing these stories like our first date was at Scream, or Scream was the first horror film I ever saw. And I just love, you don't know how much it means to me. Hearing that kind of stuff means so much to us because we brought you joy, and the experience of going to a theater and watching something you love. It's why I'm so excited that the Storied Life of A.J. Frikry's in theaters and people can go see them and they're, have that experience again. Because it really is, there's not a ton of movies like this that are really heartfelt, really take you on a whole adventure and journey. And, it's, even though there's some, mystery and some sad elements to it, it's a feel-good film.
And fans of yourself will get to see you play a cop again.
Yeah, there you go. And some you know, physics like dual universes. I think I'm still alive as a cop.
So I've got to ask a question where we can think outside the box, because you never know what the future holds, right? So if someone come to you in like 10 years and wanted to do the whole Jamie Lee thing and be like, well, ignore this scream and that scream, and then Dewey can still be alive, would you be down for that?
Yeah, parallel universe. So I was talking to my friend who was a physics. I just did a film called Quantum Cowboys, and there's a lot of like parallel universes and all this stuff. And he was explaining the ideas behind it, and that like, you know, these lives can fork off and they go in different directions and all of this kind of stuff. And I was like, wow. So yeah, I mean, anything's possible. I would love. There's also that gap of time when Dewey and Gale broke up. That's sort of, you know, unexplored, where he kind of gets a lot like, you know, in a scary direction, or like a lot more hard edge.
We can
That
make
would
a
be kind of
Baywatch. It could
interesting
be
to
like
explore.
Dewey PI or something, and we just have
Yeah,
a couple of movies of you investigating different, like Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees.
yeah, going down the highway in like some muscle car, he's fighting crime. I love the idea of that.
So my final screen question would be, what is your favorite out of all five? What's your favorite one?
I always say the first one because it really was, you know, first time working with Wes was such an honor, and just learned so much from him. For sure, it was just meeting everyone that time in our lives. We were so young. And then, yeah, I mean, that was my favorite just in general. And, you know, Scream also is like, you know, I always think of my daughter who's sort of a result of that experience. And, you know, she's such a gift to me. I'm just, you know, it means so much.
And I know if I don't ask, I'd get a kick in. So would you ever be up for an eight-legged freaks too?
I love that film. I don't think there's enough creature features out there. And I think there's plenty of room for it. And people really do. It's sort of these kind of films that people discover like after they make their initial run in the movie theaters. So
I agree.
you know, it's hard to sort of think that they'd make another one if it didn't do well in the box office to start with. It's kind of why it's important that people go out to the theaters and see these films.
And we'll start a petition for that. We need a sequel.
I love a good petition.
So what's next for you after A.J. Frikry?
I have Quantum Cowboys that's sort of doing the film festival circuit now. I've bought the rights to Bozo the Clown, so there's a documentary in the works about bringing kind clowns back. That's really what it's about. So we've been on a mission to sort of really discover what clowning is and how important it is to everyone, how important just smiling and laughing is.
So if you had to sell A.J. Frikry to an audience, how would you do it?
Well, Gabrielle Zevin wrote an incredible best-selling novel, and now it's a major motion picture. And it's true to it. She wrote the screenplay as well, and it's the story of a man's life, and it's this journey, and it's his growth as a human being in these complex relationships. But there's also a mystery that sort of goes throughout it that keeps sort of uncovering itself throughout. And you have these really wonderful actors I got to work opposite with that I was in awe of just watching them. So I think the audience would be as well.
David, it's been amazing talking to you.
Me too. Thank you so
Man,
much.
I can't believe I spoke to Dewey, man.
There you go. From the playground stuff. It's my honor. Thank you so much.
Man, don't be a stranger, and I hope to speak to you again.
I hope so as well.
Right, take care, man.
Take care. Good
See
to
ya.
see you. Thank you for the kind words.
See you later, David.
All right, take care, Jeff.